And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Have another great guest that's joining us for this next segment as we're getting ready to connect with Amazon Live. We're excited to welcome author Brian Nelson to our program today. Brian's the author of this book you all can see there. It's called Choose Life. We're going to talk to Brian not only about the writing of the book, but also how he shows some really important messages. One of the big ones is actions, both good and bad, can have consequences. If you all are just now finding out about Brian's book, of course, we'll let you guys know how to get it for yourself. If you're not joining us on the Amazon Live platform, you'll see a link that'll take you directly over to Amazon to get it for yourself. Brian, we're going to go ahead and connect with our Amazon Live family and get started, okay?
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right. Hello, everyone, and you are watching Cyrus Webb Presents on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Have another great guest that's joining us today. We're excited to welcome author Brian Nelson to our program. If you guys are joining us on Amazon, you'll see his book is highlighted there. It's called Choose Life. We're going to talk to Brian not only about the writing of the book, but also what it's been like for him to share his story with all of you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the chat for us as well. For those who are tuning in on the Amazon Live platform, if you guys notice, up in this corner, if you're joining us on your desktop or laptop, you'll see a follow button. You can follow us to stay connected with all of our shows we have here 7 days a week on the Amazon Live platform. If you're on your mobile device, you'll notice the follow button is beneath us as you're watching this video. Also, for those tuning in on your desktop or laptop, you will notice Brian's book is below. You can click on that anytime to be able to find out more information about your book, as well as to purchase your own copy. But Brian, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time and the
Hey,
opportunity.
glad to do it. Glad to do it. So, Brian, let's talk about this experience for you. I mean, what has it been like for you to see the way that readers are taking to the message in the book Choose Life?
Oh, it's been great. It's been awesome. I've been getting a lot of good feedback on how the characters in the book have been relatable to everyday life. Some of the situations relate to our current situation in the world. The book touches on, as you said, a lot of different issues that are going on in the world, from social issues, personal choices. And so, been getting good feedback saying it's been pretty engaging for them.
Yeah.
And so the feedback has been positive. It's been great. And I'm glad to be able to share these stories with people.
We appreciate you all who are tuning in on the Amazon Live platform, as well as those I see you guys over there on LinkedIn and Facebook. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments for Brian, feel free to drop those down below. We'll get those on as well. Brian, I want to talk about this because it is a novel, right? It says a novel by Brian Nelson, but I was so
Right.
struck when I was reading it that, like you said, really the whole book is kind of ripped from the headlines. And I like the fact that what you're able to do is to show how there are external things that can come to us and how we respond and react to it can affect us, but also things that are outside our control, like issues with our health, our own mortality. Have you always known that storytelling was the way that you wanted to discuss real world issues?
Well, actually, no. I this is actually my second book. My first book was not a novel. It was more of a theological type of book. And in fact, it was called "Who's Killing Prayer in the Church:
Hmm.
The Attempted Demise of Corporate Prayer." So in that, I had a lot of factual information, a lot of theological concepts and things. And so with this one, what I wanted to do is to bring it home to a broader audience, to be able to reach more people. And
Hmm.
so what I wanted to do is use the art of storytelling to do that. And so I believe that that's a gift that God gives us, this gift, and that we should use them. So I wanted to bring real life people into play here, real life situations, current situations, and things that people can relate to, and even see themselves in, and
Yeah.
show how those things can lead us down all these different paths that are before us each and every day.
The element of faith is in this book, Brian, but it we are actually able to see not all of the characters have the same amount of faith, if the faith at
Right,
all.
right.
Is that kind of also how you wanted to show how even in the world today, events can make people question God, question
Right.
their own existence, and why things happen for them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the realistic thing. The reality is that there's not everybody is not a person of faith, and
Yeah.
so I wanted to write things that can touch everyone, but still have that element of faith in it. Because the fact is, most of the people that we're going to be interacting with in each and every day, they may not know anything about a lot of different like biblical stories, and you can go to churches and things like that, and people are talking about stories that a lot of the people in that's sitting there have no idea what they're talking about. Daniel and the lion's den and all these types of things are great stories, but those people were giants of faith, elite people of faith. So they may not be able to relate to that type of thing. So with this book, it's something that they can find relatable, that they can actually be is tangible stuff because they know and have seen people go through these situations and things. And then you see the consequences of these actions based on the choices that we make each and every day.
Yeah, such a great thing. I want to say on the Amazon Live side, I'm sorry, Sonic the Hedgehog. Thank you so much for the follow there. Appreciate that. And we thank all of you who are joining us there on the online side too, on the various platforms. Appreciate you all being with us as well. If you all are just tuning in, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. Also, of course, we're joined by other platforms as well. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. Today, we're talking with an author who I had a chance to read his book, Brian Nelson. The book is called Choose Life. We're talking to Brian not only about the writing of his book, but also what's been like to share the message. So, Brian, you mentioned that this is your second book, your first book being nonfiction. Did you go into this book with the same type of feeling about how people would be able to respond to the book or to relate to the book?
Yes. I wanted to go into with it to just be able to. The book is based on current events that are going on in today's world. From anywhere from teen bullying and suicide, mass incarceration, mass shootings, violence, inner city violence, the media, and so racism, a lot of different social issues and things like that. And so I wanted to be able to touch on all of those things and all of those different topics, but do it in a way that's a storytelling format. And so that someone can sit down and actually be enjoying these things and really not even know that those type of things are about to come up in the book, because the people are just regular everyday people, people with regular jobs, doing regular things, going to school or seeking career advancement, those types of things, and then bring those issues back to the forefront to show how they relate to all of us.
Yeah. And I like the way you mentioned that. And I think, too, the other thing about the book, Brian, is that it shows that all of us are connected, even when we don't see ourselves as the same, right? Because as these characters are going through, they all are making choices. And though they on the outside, they may look different, they approach life differently, life is happening to them all. Talk to us about the readers, because, I mean, it's one thing for you as a storyteller to believe in the story, and it is a powerful story, I can say, as someone who read it. But what has it been like for you to see how readers have been entertained by the book, but also inspired by it, too?
Right. I think for me, that's been very rewarding because, people from all different walks of life have been giving me feedback on different things and talking about how relatable the characters are and how they can see themselves in these different situations. And probably the main thing that I've been getting back from people is that how I've brought these people from all these diverse backgrounds, diverse beliefs. They weren't all raised the same. And so they were all taught different things growing up. And the people that taught them believed that they were doing the right thing. And so, but we all grew up with different beliefs and norms and backgrounds. And so, and then to be able to interconnect the people together, people who that you would not think would ever even meet in life ended up traveling down this road called life, and their choices intersect and collide, and then the reactions and the different responses that we have based on those choices and the opportunities that we have, I think is a great thing, and that's what people have been giving me in feedback.
I have to mention an important part of the book that really struck me personally, Brian, and that was the way that you looked at the media and how the media covers stories. Now, I have, in 18 years of doing media myself, I've made a concerted effort to make sure that I kept Cyrus out of it. Let the guests like yourself kind of take the lead. If I'm doing the news is the news. I'm not trying to make people feel a certain way. Not everyone comes to things with that same perspective, and your characters are faced with that. That again is part of the choices when it comes to what we do and the impact it can have on others. Did you know going into the book that you wanted to kind of talk about the media and its role in kind of how things can be either perceived or covered?
Yes, it was one of the main issues I wanted to touch on. And so this perception, there's so much is shaped by perception today. In the media is probably the main component or the driving force behind that. And so if I'm sitting in some kind of silo, only listening or watching the same type of media or things that I agree with all the time, it's going to shape my life into a way that it may not have happened if it wasn't for that. And so I wanted to touch on the media, and so that I do have a huge characters in there who are in the media, and then people who are shaped by those media forces. So I want to deal with some of the negativity of the media and also the positive things, and so because the media also has always played a role in shaping change. There wouldn't have been no change in civil rights movements and all these things without the media. And so now it's about what type of images are being portrayed in media. And this has always been in the fabric of media throughout the United States. And so it's always had a huge part in shaping media. And so if I'm always going to show certain groups of people in a negative light, well, guess what? The person that's never gets to interact with those people, what are they going to think? They're going to think these different things about those people because they don't have any interaction with nothing else. And that's all they get to see. And their perception becomes their reality.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing. And it also shows, too, from a wider standpoint, Brian, and again, you show this in the book in a really great way, that whether we mean to or not only do our actions have consequences, they impact people outside of ourselves. And that comes through in Choose Life, too. Are you surprised that that is not something that more people think about? Because a lot of times people think if they say something or do something, it's kind of in a vacuum. They don't seem to get or comprehend the fact how widespread that can be, especially now as you and I are connected now on the internet, especially when it comes to things like social media.
Yeah, I am surprised because I think people we don't take the time to think about our interconnectedness. And so we have such a us against them mentality in the world today. And so even living in the same country. And so people think that they can be okay and these people over here not be okay and everything is going to be okay. It's not going to affect their lives. But that's not true. And so and choices come with consequences that don't just most of the choices that we make in life are not going to simply affect just us. We may get the most or the direct impact on that, but our choices are not going to just impact us. It's going to have a ripple effect. It's going to affect first the people around you as well, and then it's going to branch out from there. It's not just going to be what happens to just you. I know we like to say it's a personal choice, but as we can say, even right now, your personal choices have ramifications far beyond your personal space or circle.
Exactly. Hello to you, Lisa Moshe. Great to see you on the Facebook side. Mary Ellen Taganovich, thank you so much for joining us on the Facebook side as well. For those tuning in on LinkedIn, we see you over there. YouTube, appreciate you all for viewing us live over there, as well as those that are tuning in on Amazon Live. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents. My guest is Brian Nelson. He's the author of this book, Choose Life. It's available on Amazon right now. For those joining us on the Amazon Live side, we have it highlighted in the carousel. And again, depending on how you all are watching us on Amazon Live, it's where you'll see the books. If you're joining us on your desktop or laptop, you'll notice the book is beneath us. If you're joining us on your mobile device, the book is on the side of us. Also, make sure you guys give us a follow, as did Sonic the Hedgehog over there on the Amazon Live side. If you're not following us already, we'd love for you guys to stay updated on our program there. Today's broadcast is being powered by BiteCool. You see, that's the laptop that I'm using today. Great for streaming. For those who are looking for something that really makes it a lot easier. For those who are doing a lot of Zooming these days or streaming online, an affordable computer for you is definitely BiteCool. So I want to broaden out the conversation a bit, Brian, and talk about you as a storyteller, because I think, for anyone out there who's an author thinking about writing a book, did it just feel right for you when you finished this book? Did you feel like you had written something that was going to be important?
Yes, it felt like something that I thought can be impactful, that can make an impact, really to anyone who can get their hands on this book and who was willing to take the time to read it. And so I felt like it was a message. I felt like God was giving me a message, and He wanted me to write it in a certain way. He wanted me to use the creativity that God gives us. He wanted me to be creative in it, and not to just give out a bunch of stoic characters or figures and things like that. He wanted me to use creativity. He wanted me to use storytelling and things like that to demonstrate that these things can happen to anyone, and that we're all faced with life-changing decisions. And so, because the reality is this, if you look at the news and things that's happening in the world today, people are out there making life-changing decisions, but they're doing them on a whim. Yeah. They're doing them without any thought or anything, but without any thought of the ramifications that it could possibly have. And so God wanted me to write these stories on everyday people to show that these choices that people are making, they may seem small at the time that you make them, but down the road, they're gonna have a big impact on your life, or potentially the lives on others as well, including your family.
Yeah. Mary Ellen said on Facebook, sounds like a great book. I love what he has been saying about choices and perceptions. And it is really good points there. I want to go back to chapter 11 of the book, again, Choose Life. And there we meet a character named Paul. Andre Jackson is one of our main characters that we're dealing with. But Paul is an interesting one, because the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and you probably already know, I could tell probably why I'm bringing this up, Brian, but Paul is someone, again, unfortunately, there are Pauls out there in the real world that we live in today. And right. One of the things that we see that Paul is doing his best to manipulate Andre and right. to manipulate the public, because even as you write in the book, for those who have the print edition on page 57, this is Paul's thoughts. Everything is going as planned. And then it goes on to say, and I'm paraphrasing here because we're on television as well, Paul said, having one of those do our bidding for us was a brilliant idea on your part. Like you said, all we have to do is offer one of them a position or a little power, and they'll work harder against their own people than we are. And I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, because at a time when people are talking about being united and it's all working together, right. You really show in the book what we see in the real world, which is not everyone is working for your own best interest. Why was that a message you want to make sure kind of came through in this?
Yeah, I thought that was an important message. That's a great chapter. Paul Wilson is this media executive, but Andre, his protege, is the one making the day-to-day decisions. And so Andre is this young black man, up and coming executive, who got the position. He was offered and he obtained this position because he agreed to basically kind of do the bidding of Paul Wilson, who he thinks is his friend, but he's really a manipulator. He's really basically he's a white nationalist working in media. And so he's making that statement because he was saying he believed, and I believe it as well, that if we can get the African American person to go at his own people in a way, it's not going to be offensive to it's not going to be as offensive to other blacks. And so it's going to be, he's saying that if I can use a black person to do our bidding, it's more effective than if I do it. Because look, when people see that they have an enemy that's coming against them, what do? We set ourselves up. We're ready to tackle this enemy. We're ready to counteract this enemy. We're ready to fight against this enemy. But if it's someone who's not really perceived as an enemy, but he's working for these people, and we don't know it, and really he doesn't even know it. So he's being manipulated to do the bidding of this large media network, and he actually believes that these people have his best interests in heart when they truly don't. He's being used really as a pawn, although he doesn't really know that.
Yeah. But I think the reason why I also wanted to bring up that chapter, Brian, is because it goes to another point. Because a lot of times, people, when they're dangled in with a position,
Right.
With power,
Right.
with money, with prestige, they're willing to literally sell their souls
Right.
for. And I think that's what we're able to see later on. Not to give it away, but we
Right.
see again Andre having to make decisions based on what he really believes versus just something that he's being told
Right.
to do, and offered.
Sure.
What do you want readers to take away from that? Again, we talked earlier about actions having consequences,
Right.
Brian, but what do you want them to know about how at the end of the day, they have to know who they are outside of everything else?
Right, exactly. Because this young man was given a choice. He was given an option to do that type of work, that to be the front man, to be the face of that work. But he accepted based on the promise of career advancement.
Yeah.
And so and behind that, he was given this additional promise that once you're on the quote unquote inside, now you're in a position where you can actually make changes. You can have influence in the industry, but basically the promise was you have to be on the inside to have that influence. And so for the choice was, am I going to maintain my integrity in this situation, or am I going to allow myself to be manipulated with this choice? So he had this gold carrot dangling in front of him of this position of power, but he has to do things that go against all of his teaching and all he knows was right. But he's telling himself he's going to do it with the intention of doing something good on the back end. But the reality is that's never the case. Anytime you sell your integrity and what's done wrong, you're making a bad choice. And he's going to see the consequences of those choices down the road.
Yeah, as do we all for sure. Again, everyone, Brian Nelson has been our guest. The book is called Choose Life. As you can tell from this, hopefully this has whet your appetite for it. It really is a fast-paced read. The characters really bring you in. And the reason I think they bring us in, Brian, is because they're us.
Right.
It's very easy to see yourself in this book, see someone in your book, to see your attitude in this book. And I think that is what makes it such a great read. The book is available through our friends at Amazon.com. You all can see it there. Again, if you're joining us on the Amazon Live platform, you'll notice it is below. So make sure you guys do click that to be able to get your own copy of it. For those who are not joining us on the Amazon Live platform, click the link that you see with this broadcast. That'll take you over to Amazon to be able to Choose Life for yourself. And Brian, how can they stay connected with you, man?
Well, they can find me. I'm at Author Brian Nelson on Facebook, or you can just Brian Nelson as well. You can reach me there. I'm also on Instagram at Author Brian Nelson. You can reach me there. And so any of those two platforms. My website is authorbriannelson.com. And so you can also go to my website. You can send me any kind of comments through there. You can purchase the book through my website at Author Brian Nelson. But I welcome any feedback, any comment on any issues. There's some touchy issues in the book, I will say that, but I welcome any discussion and any type of feedback or any disagreements that anyone may have about the book. I'd be more than happy to discuss those with them.
All right, Brian, congratulations to you again. Glad we had you on the program today. I'm looking forward to our next conversation together, man.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Me too.
Hey, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, let's make it a great one. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Thank you.